Welcome to Concrete Block, your premier source for in-depth analysis and discussion of the latest news and current events. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. As we dive into the world of politics and beyond, we'll be exploring the stories that are shaping our world and affecting our lives. Today, we're starting with a developing story out of Washington, D.C., where President Trump is set to meet with congressional leaders ahead of a looming government shutdown deadline. The meeting comes after a week of intense negotiations and partisan posturing, with both sides digging in on their respective positions. According to reports, the White House has been preparing for a potential shutdown by sending memos to federal agencies, instructing them to prepare layoff plans and reduction in force notices for employees and programs that may be affected. The president has also been vocal about his priorities, including addressing immigration and border security as part of any healthcare negotiations. Democrats, on the other hand, are pushing back against what they see as an attempt to strong-arm them into accepting Republican proposals. They're advocating for extensions of Affordable Care Act insurance subsidies and protections for undocumented migrants, while also highlighting the potential consequences of a government shutdown on everyday Americans. As we navigate this complex and often contentious landscape, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and evaluate the facts. We'll be examining the intricacies of this story, including the political maneuvering, the policy implications, and the human impact. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has stated that it's totally up to the Democrats whether the government shuts down, while Senator Amy Klobuchar argues that Democrats are united in pushing for healthcare protections. Meanwhile, President Trump is maintaining a hardline stance on immigration and border security. As we move forward, we'll be discussing these developments with experts and thought leaders, seeking to provide clarity and context in a rapidly evolving situation. We'll also be exploring other major stories of the day, from economic trends to social movements. So, stay tuned as we delve into the world of news and current events. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're halfway through our show today, and we're diving into a story that's been making headlines in the world of politics. As you may have heard, a government shutdown is looming, with lawmakers struggling to come to an agreement on funding and healthcare. Now, let's break it down for you. The main issue at hand is that Senate Democrats are rejecting a short-term funding bill proposed by Republicans, citing concerns over recent cuts to healthcare programs. They're demanding that any new legislation address these cuts and provide expanded subsidies for those who buy insurance through the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. On the other side of the aisle, Republican leaders like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson are calling on Democrats to support a stopgap measure that would fund the government through November 21st. They argue that this would give lawmakers time to hammer out a longer-term solution while avoiding a potentially disastrous shutdown. But here's the thing, a shutdown could have serious consequences for thousands of federal workers who might be furloughed or forced to work without pay. Not to mention the impact on national parks, government services, and the economy as a whole. We want to hear from you, our listeners. What do you think about this ongoing stalemate in Washington? Should lawmakers prioritize finding common ground or stand firm on their principles? Let us know on social media using the hashtag #iConcreteBlock. It's worth noting that President Trump has summoned congressional leaders to the White House for a meeting today in an effort to break the logjam. But with time running out, it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to reach a deal before the clock strikes midnight on Tuesday. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we urge all parties involved to put the interests of the American people first and work towards finding a solution that benefits everyone. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're closing out today's show with a look at the latest developments in international relations, specifically the situation between Iran and the United Nations. As we've been following, tensions have been escalating over Iran's nuclear program, with the UN recently imposing sanctions on the country. To break it down, the sanctions were triggered by France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, who accused Iran of restricting monitoring of its nuclear program and failing to provide access to International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors. Iran has maintained that its nuclear program is peaceful, but the West and IAEA have expressed concerns about the country's enrichment of uranium to levels beyond what's typically used for civilian purposes. The Iranian government has responded by threatening to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which could have significant implications for global security. Lawmaker Ismail Kosari was quoted as saying that Parliament would discuss withdrawing from the treaty, although it's unclear at this point whether that will happen. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has praised the European nations for taking a strong stance against Iran, while also leaving the door open for diplomacy. However, experts warn that the situation is complex and volatile, with risks of miscalculation or further conflict. It's worth noting that Iran has been enriching uranium to levels of up to 60% purity, which is just a short step away from weapons-grade material. The country has also been rebuilding nuclear sites that were damaged in recent strikes, which has raised concerns about its intentions. As we try to make sense of this complex situation, it's clear that there are no easy answers. Both sides have legitimate concerns and grievances, and finding a resolution will require careful diplomacy and compromise. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.